nostalgia. A sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal association.
Street racing is a culture that I've been very fond of in my life. As a kid born in the 2000s, I only got to experience the tail end of this culture's golden age as a kid. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Initial D, Eurobeat, Jungle, Linkin Park, Dub Magazine, and Need for Speed Underground are what comes to most people's minds when you mention street racing. Midnight Club 3, the topic of this video, is a perfect time capsule of this culture and everything that it stood for. Cars, bikes, SUVs, trucks, performance, style, edge, USA, Japan, and sex appeal. But these are the nostalgic things that we remember about street racing. In reality, street racing is an underground culture similar to graffiti. It is a crime after all, but it has a network a lot larger than you'd expect. And street racing still to this day is a thriving community, much like graffiti. Not that I know, of course. Similarly, they also have really important history. And the history in which street racing was founded upon is kind of its definition. Death and injury only occur when accidents happen, and most often it's only when police are involved. Street racing isn't a hobby for the rich. Most people who can afford nice cars would rather spare the reckless driving, fine, and potentially losing their license, instead just visiting a track every week. Because street racing is a middle-class hobby, most street racers drive family cars, and maybe sports cars late in their hobby. Typically these cars are modified to have better performance, and, of course, better appearance. Nothing pulls me out more than playing a street racing game and immediately being able to unlock a supercar. It makes me feel like I'm playing a car ad and not really playing a game meant to simulate the experiences of illegal street racing.
Culture. The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively.
Street racing is often associated with the surrounding culture of the time. Street racing games are usually no different, even to this day. Need for Speed Unbound is influenced heavily by the culture of its time. The year 2022 till now, street racing's identity is influenced by funk, rap, hip-hop, and anime. No Eurobeat made it into Unbound though. Maybe it's still a little too niche for the US. Hey, at least takeovers aren't a thing in Unbound, and that would be embarrassing. So with that modern example of this effect, what did culture look like in Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition? The game gets its subtitle from Dub Magazine, the company that partnered with Angel Studios to make this vision possible. For people who have read Dub Magazine, that's probably obvious, but for those who are new, Dub Magazine is basically just an exotic car magazine, typically focused around tuners and racing. With the rise of Need for Speed after Midnight Club's initial release, the sequel Midnight Club 2 just wasn't cutting it. It was plagued with a strange story, a cast of characters that is still divisive to this day over stereotypes, fictional cars, and to make things worse, it just wasn't as fun to play as the behemoth that EA was releasing at the time. If you've watched my video on Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, you'd probably know that games about culture require an honest depiction, and a dedication to authenticity, so they can feel immersive to the end user. If they don't follow those rules, the game feels cheap and simulatory. This can make for a great entry point for people outside of the culture, but for anyone who actually knows anything about it, it can be pretty difficult to latch onto these things. Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition immediately sets itself apart with characters that feel real and relatable. The world also felt a lot more grounded in street racing's reality. And of course, finally leading me to talk about the cultural influence surrounding Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. The year is 2005. CSI and Grey's Anatomy are the biggest shows on TV, igniting the fire of traumatized career shows to entice the youth. The The Boondocks and American Dad are showing the world to separate our differences and laugh about them. You may have heard your first Chuck Norris joke this year. Feel Good Inc. and Gold Digger were booming from every car radio. The very platform you're watching this video on was literally created this year. Branding was edgy now. Hot Topic actually looked intimidating. Drinks like Powerade were changing their branding too. Even new drinks were popping up, like my personal favorite, Monster Energy. But I'm sure you could guess that. Tribal tattoos were also huge for some reason. I'll never really understand that. And navigating the Xbox was like browsing through an alien's MySpace page. Oh yeah, speaking of MySpace. MySpace was before my time, so I can't really pretend to understand any of it, or have nostalgia for it nonetheless. But I can at least understand that MySpace was responsible for influencing the world to become more culturally oriented. People were encouraged to share the music they listened to, and to show off their favorite outfits, and talk about their interests in one place closed off from the rest of the internet. That seems to be rare these days on the internet, but that's a whole nother topic. Street racing means many things to many people. Reckless driving, tuner culture, family, toge racing, wangan racing, ricer culture, and if you're new, maybe the only thing that comes to mind are the silly cars with those giant wings and exhaust pipes. That's Bosozoku, by the way. Fun fact, the word ricer is actually a shortened word for the term, which is a racist derogatory term for people who owned Bosozoku bikes in Japan. However, around 2005, the word ricer separated itself from its racist anti-Bosozoku origins, and it was used as a word similar to weeaboo or gringo, a word to describe a non-Asian person obsessed with Bosozoku culture to a naive fault. Later, it would sort of be reclaimed as a word for people obsessed with car visuals, and the word never got replaced, so some old people still use it as a shortened word for the racist term, but most of the car enthusiasts' youth use it as an affectionate term for the culture. So much so that a new meaning has come for the word in the community, this cute little acronym: racing-inspired cosmetic enhancements. So with that, the word rice detached itself from its racist origins and became its own word to define modifications or accessories that are off-balance favoring appearance over function. This shift also ended in the word rice being used for PC building, Linux customization, game modding, and keyboard building, since those hobbies also include a balance of appearance and function. On the other side of things, some street racers just wanted to get as close to the track experience as possible, this side having a much less controversial name, tuners. Interestingly enough, the word tuner is also used in PC building, Linux customization, game modding, and you guessed it, keyboard building. Tuning is the idea of optimizing the car to be as performant as possible, and attempting to get the handling to feel like an extension of the body. Some street racing trends of the time were also making their mark. Street racing started in the 1960s with hot rod culture, usually drag racing to flex on other hot rod owners. Bragging rights were typically the only thing on the line. The 80s scene started in Japan with toge. In the 90s, wangan and more gang-oriented racing was surfacing in Japan and America again, with performance and appearance being a focus for intimidation. But talk is cheap. We're in the 2000s. Racing for pink slips, betting, and showing off in front of beautiful women to stroke your ego are starting to gain some traction. With pink slips on the line, people in street racing really cared about their cars, shamelessly personalizing them and upgrading them at the first chance they could get to deter people looking for trades. With money on the line, people cared about performance. And lastly, with potential mates on the line, appearance became a focus too. So vicariously, these betting trends made tuning and ricing a huge identity of street racing that's still prevalent to this day. So now that I've gotten the cultural history lesson out of the way, we're all on level ground now, so Midnight Club 3. It's all about tuning and racing, similar to its relatives, Street Racing Syndicate, Juiced, and Need for Speed. Music also has a pretty huge influence on the immersion in this game, a fantastic assortment of rock, hip-hop, rap, drum and bass, breakcore, and jungle. All my favorite genres, honestly. If only Eurobeat was in there. I swear to God, Eurobeat's always left out. Some pretty big names are here too, like Noisa, Twista, Kanye West, T.I., Lil Wayne, Beanie Man, and Fat Joe. I definitely pronounced some of those names wrong, and my dad's gonna be pissed if he watches this, so let's move on and listen to some songs.
So what up, son? What's up, dog?
I know you wanna hold it, but it's hard to control it. I drive it like I stole it. Drive it like I stole it. Twister, you told her ride. Make you a celebrity overnight. Baby, you look fine. I want your way.
Alright, that's it for music in this game. That little bit is already testing YouTube's copyright system.
Composure. Can you keep your cool?
Street racing was all about being cool and staying cool. Midnight Club 3 will feel close to home if you played a GTA game. The driving feels almost identical, even to the likes of GTA 5, and hopefully GTA 6. After all, if it's not broken, why put in the effort to fix it? Midnight Club 3 is a perfect example of what racing games should strive to be, a perfect realistic simcade foundation with unrealistic game mechanics built on top. It sets the stage for a perfect game where you'll build your skills in racing as a foundation, but also learn Midnight Club's mechanics to come out on top. It's a perfect video game in my opinion. All video games should have some sort of simulation element, and the realism of that simulation element can make the player feel like they already understand the game's mechanics to an extent, having prior skills in the real world. But a game like this that's designed to have both simulation and over-the-top arcade stuff allows the game to still be a game. Car handling is weighty, and the physics simulation is very impressive for its time. This was released in 2005, by the way. And to be honest, this is the part of the video where I cut the shit. This isn't a retrospective, it's a love letter. Not for what Midnight Club 3 was, but for what it still is to this day, a time capsule in gaming and street racing as a whole. For clarity, this video will be focusing on the PS2 version of Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix, so not the original release of Dub Edition or the PSP port, at least not today. Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix is an open world and it's set in the United States. You'll see yourself racing in San Diego, Atlanta, and Detroit. On top of that, there's also the Tokyo map in Remix. And these areas are all big enough to have fun driving around, but not so big that you'll get lost or too far to drive to things that you need. There's also a substantial amount of variety in these locations, especially Japan, complete with left-side roads and visible climate differences. These maps are structured in a way that intentionally sets them up to be perfect for tracks that you'll race on. There are malls and warehouses that you can drive through, parks and yards serve as off-road shortcuts, alleyways and driving on the opposite side of the highway become a game of threading the needle, having strong enough reflexes to adapt to traffic and other racers. Speaking of opponents, they're as vicious as commenters on Instagram Reels. You will fail, time and time again, but restarting the race has no negative effects, which encourages you to pull yourself up from your bootstraps and get back in until you perfected the race, shaving off seconds until you finally taste victory. It's like being a freshman on a sports team during practice. The odds are always against you, making you feel like you'd have to cheat to win. But over time, you'll get to a point where you win on the first try, and that's a real feeling of accomplishment, overcoming all the odds this game throws at you. Opponents in traffic aren't all, though. There are police too, and they're much more aggressive, and sometimes they even feel like they're out for blood. There's even traffic jams, accidents, and ramps to provide more difficulty. These little details make the world feel alive too, and keeping the tracks feeling more like levels than circuits. With interesting landmarks in every track, fun layouts and moments will stick in your head long after playing. So as I mentioned, there are some arcadey moves and physics that complements the main gameplay pretty well. First, I want to start with some familiarity. Long story short, GTA 5 cars are basically Midnight Club 3. So yeah, if you didn't know, the Rage engine that all the modern GTA games are based off of since GTA 4 started as the game engine for Midnight Club Los Angeles, which is the updated engine for, you guessed it, Midnight Club 3. So if you've played a GTA game, you probably know what I mean when I say you can have a lot of fun with the car physics and handling. If you're wondering why Rage engine was used for GTA 4 and why they never just updated the old engine from, GTA San Andreas, that's because the old engine was made on renderware. TLDR is that renderware was basically a 90s Unity made by Criterion. EA bought Criterion, so Rockstar was discouraged from using a direct competitor's engine, so Rockstar built upon the only original engine that was still maintained, which was Midnight Club's engine, eventually reworked as the Rage engine. This renderware stuff is pretty interesting, and honestly I could make a whole video about its effect on the gaming industry. It's the reason why GTA PS2's trilogy remasters always get botched, and why Sega hasn't remastered Shadow the Hedgehog or Sonic Heroes. With that out of the way, we can finally talk about this mechanic. This is weight transfer. If you've played GTA 5, this is the same as how you flip your car over. Except in Midnight Club 3, you can use weight transfer in any condition just by holding a button. You can rotate your car in midair, and you can even do whatever the hell this is. I still don't know what the benefit of this is, but it looks really goofy and it's fun to do every now and then, so yeah. You can also use it to flip your car back over in case you crash if you're quick enough. If you aren't quick enough though, that leads us into the next ability. Burnouts. You can use a burnout to get a small acceleration boost to recover after crashing. You can also use this at the start of a race to get a speed boost. This is a slipstream. It charges a temporary boost that can be used within a short period of time after filling it. NPCs can use this mechanic too, and with how aggressive the AI is, this leads to some full-on war sometimes. Alright, let's talk about cars, because what is a racing game without cars? Since Dub Magazine handled the licensing, the list of cars is focused more on street consumer cars, and most of them are American. There are some supercars here and there, but they're unlockables and take a long time to get. So the game keeps its balance. No Lamborghinis 5 minutes in. Show Forza 5 here. There are also some licensed body kits and aftermarket parts. This makes it really feel like a true built not bought experience. Car manufacturers include Cadillac, Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, GMC, Pontiac, and Hummer representing the United States. There's also a Mustang here too that's brought through a licensing loophole with Celine. Lamborghini, Ducati, and Pagani represent Italian imports. McLaren and Lotus for England. Volkswagen for Germany, Scion, Toyota, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Kawasaki, and Lexus for Japan. So with manufacturers out of the way, what kind of cars do we got? Well, there's a decent roster of cars here with some notable legends, like the Cadillac CTS-V, Eldorado, and Escalade, known for their appearances in rap music videos around the time. The Chevy Corvette Z06, known for its owners being 16 or 60 with no in-between. The Chevy Silverado, known for being a Chevy Silverado, the Dodge Viper GTS, known for being a Widowmaker, the Lamborghini Diablo, Gallardo, and Murcielago, the three legends, the beautiful Lotus Esprit, and of course, the giant list of cars that you can roleplay the Fast and Furious with, the Toyota Supra, Dodge Charger, Mitsubishi Eclipse, Volkswagen Jetta, Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, Nissan Skyline GTR, Chevy Monte Carlo, and Nissan Fairlady. Sad for me though, there isn't a single Acura, Honda, or Mazda, and the car selection definitely favors American-made cars, especially since most of these American car manufacturers are actually based in Detroit, which is where most of this game takes place. So a lot of nice-looking cars. But maybe you say, wait Nyan, didn't you say this was a PS2 game? Isn't that like 100 years ago? I bet this game looks like booty cheeks. I'm gonna keep playing Forza. But this game surprisingly holds up. The 6th generation of gaming was one of experimentation. The 5th generation laid out the groundwork for what 3D would look like in gaming, triangles and textures of course. We're still rendering like that to this day, but the 6th gen was kind of an era for shaders. Shaders are a lot to explain, and I doubt anyone wants to hear another history lesson, but the basic idea is that the shader can modify the way that each pixel is drawn on a polygon. This can be as simple as per pixel lighting, as opposed to doing lighting per vertex, but this can also be as complex as something like reflections or motion blur. Subtle segue, huh? So yeah, this game has gorgeous reflections and motion blur, in the form of light trails. These are mostly artist-driven, making them a lot more timeless than something that's trying to simulate how real light works. The car reflections use cube maps, which are basically inverted skyboxes, and road reflections are actually lights rendered underneath the road surface. Weather effects like rain use particle systems that really help sell the mood of racing during a storm. But that's enough info dumping about Midnight Club 3. Just play this game and enjoy it, because they don't make them like this anymore. If you want to learn more about Midnight Club 3's legacy, keep watching though. So how can you even play Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix today? Well, you have a couple options, though they're not exactly the easiest ways to play a game in the current era. Midnight Club 3 never got a PC port. Quite a shame. With the series abandoned by Rockstar, it isn't very likely that this will ever change either. Double shame. The only official releases of Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix are on the PS2 and original Xbox. So if you can get a copy secondhand, granted you have one of those consoles, this is your sign. Also, if you have a PC, emulation is an option. I'm not promoting piracy though, far from it. All the game's footage in this video is actually recorded in a really cool emulator called PCSX2, running a real PS2 disc off the disk drive of my PC. This blows my mind, by the way, that you can actually do this. If PS2s and Xboxes are out of your budget though, the inferior but still pretty good PSP version of this game may suffice. You can emulate this with PPSSPP as well on your phone or PC if you'd like. And the best part is that it doesn't require a BIOS like the PS2 and Xbox emulators, so you don't need to even own the console. Oh, and of course, this is the perfect game to keep on your Steam Deck if you own one, trust me. It has saved me from boredom in waiting rooms so often. But what if you have none of those things? Well, suck it up, because Rockstar doesn't give a shit. At least there's GTA Online's Los Santos Tuners season, which feels close enough to a Midnight Club game, but I also wanted to show off something that GTA 5 story mode has that I think is pretty cool. There's a character in Franklin's story named Hal. He's a street racer who gives Franklin the plug on some race events. These feel so close to the Midnight Club that I know and love. It almost makes me sad that the franchise died on the 360 because these races are so much fun. Playing these 5 races is just like a love letter in its own sense to Midnight Club. There are no references or nostalgia bait here. It just feels like Angel Studios actually made these missions because they feel so much like Midnight Club. Car physics and handling obviously make these missions feel pretty close, but even small details like the way that the map only shows the next 2 checkpoints, how completing a race will leave you with a girl blowing you a kiss, and the way you start races by pressing the same button you use to turn on your high beams are small touches that leave this feeling very familiar. Franklin actually borrows a mechanic from Midnight Club as well. Franklin has this ability where he can slow down time while driving. This mechanic is identical to Zone from Midnight Club 3. Oh yeah, I didn't talk much about them because I never really used them, but there are 3 abilities that you can unlock in Midnight Club 3. Zone, a time slowdown, Aggro, a temporary armor upgrade, and Roar, an EMP pulse. Back to GTA 5, the radio station will automatically be tuned to Soulwax FM. This is a house radio station with no ads or news, and honestly it gives off that Midnight Club feel with the genres of music here. I also encourage you to try these races with some modded vehicles. Just grab a car and upgrade it however you'd like, but leave the engine level corresponding to the number of the race. These 5 races include Shift Work, a suburban circuit on Franklin's block with low traffic. City Circuit, a much more intense open road course that takes you through Vinewood and Los Santos, with much more traffic than the last course I might add. I think this one is my favorite because the layout with the skyscrapers and Hollywood Hills suburbia really pulls together that authentic Midnight Club experience. Airport is another road circuit, but this time it's on the Los Santos International Airport. I thought this was going to be an airfield circuit, but eh. Next up is Freeway, another track that really isn't what I expected. It's just a road circuit through a highway, not a Wangan race or anything too crazy, so don't be expecting no Heatace here. The traffic is sparse too, making it not really ideal for a Midnight Club highway race. The final race, Vespucci Canals, forces you to race with a bike, reminding me of the bike-only parts in Midnight Club 3. Another thing I didn't really mention before, but I guess I'll talk about now. Yeah, so Midnight Club 3 has different races that only allow certain types of vehicles, but it's never a hindrance or a focus, so I didn't really say much about it, but yeah, these are called club races. They consist of the Unbeatable Street Racers, a club of tuners, American Royalty Car Club, a club for muscle cars, Luxury Rollers Car Club, a club for luxury sedans, Big Playas, a club for SUVs and trucks, By Invitation Only, a club for exotic cars, Chopper of America Bike Club, a club for choppers, and Original Riders, a club for sport bikes. The race is pretty fun, and just like the other races, the handling for bikes feels just like it does in Midnight Club once again. Scratching that itch for anyone who really liked the bike races. I'm not really part of that crowd though. All that's really missing is licensed cars and strips. Fucking shit, oh my god, my fucking mouth is so dry. All that's missing is licensed cars and slipstreaming, and this could be a pretty good framework for a new Midnight Club game. Before anyone comments, yes, I know, Midnight Club 3 has a sequel, but the problem is, Midnight Club Los Angeles is stuck on the PS3 and 360, and emulating it is way more of a pain than Midnight Club 3. Our PCS3 requires a pretty beefy PC and a lot of tweaking, and Xenia has a couple of rendering glitches. While wrapping up the writing for this script, Xenon Recomp dropped, along with Sonic Unleashed Recompiled. This makes me really hope for a dynamic recompilation project for Midnight Club Los Angeles. It still puzzles me that Rockstar hasn't made an official PC port, but yet again, Midnight Club was discontinued for a reason. It just couldn't keep up with the louder and more popular Need for Speed series. But honestly, looking back, maybe it's good that Midnight Club isn't a thing anymore. Because now Midnight Club sits as it once was, and forever will be in that state. A time capsule of what street racing was in 2005. Even if Midnight Club got a reboot, or if Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix got a remake, I don't think I'd be too happy, since they'd probably modernize it too much, and in the case of a reboot, they'd probably leave behind that 2005 edge, and I think that's kind of what Midnight Club's identity is. Besides, what would they even call it? We at Rockstar know that there is a void in our brand. GTA Online may have slightly filled it, but we aren't quite there yet. Fast cars, sexy ladies, and hip-hop music. That's what I'm talking about. Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix. Remade. Anyone? Nah, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't even pay pennies to team up with Dub Magazine again. Maybe Super Street? As always, thanks for watching, guys. And fuck you, Rockstar and 2K. You guys suck. I can't leave without saying I'm so surprised with how my Minecraft video ended up doing, even if some of you people have very strong opinions, but still, as always, peace and love, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.